Welcome to the second session of BL5 webinar series. So basically the first webinar we have discussed the introduction to assurance engagement. So I kindly request, if you have not watched the webinar number 1 before watching the webinar number 2, please go back, and where we discussed the very basic fundamentals of all assurance engagement, which is the foundation for the external auditing, which we have discussed during the first webinar. So kindly watch and come back to see this one. So basically this second webinar I am going to discuss the introduction to external auditing. Again, another foundation, one of the important thing for you to have to understand the difficult complex theories in auditing, where it is applicable for a BL5, and that is the base for the corporate level 1 advanced audit and assurance, as well as that knowledge again will be useful at the strategic level 1 ABR subject, and same it will be useful at the practicing module at the Viva stage. Not only that, so beyond that, one day when you become a practicing chartered accountant or a chartered accountant in business, this knowledge will be very much useful, right? So let's go to the syllabus content and have a look on that, where the session, how the session is coming in the syllabus, and then our program, then we'll come to the today's chapter. So session 2, introduction to auditing or introduction to external auditing. Basically in the syllabus structure I explained you at the first webinar. So, and if you look at this, out of this 15 chapters, as I explained in the first video, what you need to really look at is this syllabus has to be divided into two, section D and section E separately. That is about 55% of your syllabus, which talks about the external auditing angle, and then part A, B and C talks about the inside of the business organization, where that has to be addressed separately, that 45%. Out of that 45%, basically 35% is part A and B, and the part C, digitalization, is one of the interesting and fantastic area which we need to discuss separately. But in this we have started the discussion of part D and E. So part D, chapter number 10, introduction to assurance engagement, was our first webinar, where we put the foundation for the assurance engagement. And now chapter number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Chapter number 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15 basically contains about 50 marks. So that 50 marks is the basically we are talking about the external auditing. So in order to discuss chapter number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, because it is a one flow. You can't break in between, it is a one flow. So since we want to discuss 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 together, I am going to explain you this entire 5 chapters today in a summary form. And I will tell you what are the auditing standards are there in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters, and what are the key areas you need to focus, and what type of question that should come. So therefore webinar number 2 is very much important for you to have a basic understanding to the auditing, which will help you to understand more complex areas which are described in chapter 12, 13, 14 and 15, right? So that is where we are now. Webinar number 1 we discussed the chapter number 10, then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Today will be the basic introduction. And after that, so I will be discussing key areas, next 3 webinars covering up these key areas given in this the syllabus content with the study text. So again I am telling, before watching these webinars, you need to have materials in your hand. Number 1, study text volume 1 and volume 2, and then number 2, pilot paper, and number 3, you need to have the revision kit, and you need to have the mock examination paper. Please ensure all these are available in the LMSC Sri Lanka. So download or keep or take a printout or whatever. I think better to have a printout. So keep all this with you before watching the webinar. And after watching the webinar, so I will be drawing a short note. So you have to note down all those important points I am telling at the webinar, and then go back and read the study text properly and do all the questions in the revision kit question, which will help you to get through a definite pass at the upcoming examination. Right. So then basically section D, ethics and values, 15% and fundamentals of audit and assurance 40%, altogether 55%. In that 55%, basically there are 6 chapters. Out of that we have already discussed. So what type of question that will come in the today's webinar? So this type of question will come. So this is from the pilot paper, question number 23. If you have the pilot paper, you can see, or otherwise you can look at the screen and read the question. Read carefully the question. Which of the following is the most appropriate definition of the external audit? So which of the following is the most appropriate definition of the external audit? Part A, the external audit provides negative assurance on the truth and fairness of a company's financial statement. Part B, the external audit is an exercise carried out in order to give an opinion on the effectiveness of a company's internal control system. And C, the external audit is performed to identify areas of deficiency within a company and make recommendation to mitigate those deficiencies. And D, the external audit is an exercise carried out by auditors in order to give an opinion on whether the finance statement of a company provide true and fair. It's not an easy question if you don't know the theory. If you know the theory correctly, one of the very simple question. So you expect this type of questions at the examination. I have copied this one from the pilot paper. The same type of questions are available in the revision kit questions as well as the mock examination paper, right? So now have a look a summary. Have a look a summary of the look at here. Have a look a summary. We'll have a summary of this, the theoretical area of the introduction to auditing. So basically chapter number 11, 10 and 11 combination. Right. So in the previous webinar we discussed what is the meaning of assurance and in simply what is meant by auditing. So I am going to take you further. What is this auditing? Right. What is this auditing? We know the assurance. What is this auditing? So before coming to the auditing, I am just trying to draw my basic diagram. So if you can remember the character certificate example which I discussed with you in the last webinar, where someone is there, someone is becoming a chartered accountant and someone applies for the job of mass holding for the designation of finance manager at the package of 350,000 plus vehicle. So that is a chartered accountant package. So we all you all try to achieve this dream to come to this level, starting 350,000, so ending we don't know, right? Then when you apply for the job of mass holding, so the mass holding say that you come with the two, I am not going to explain in detail because please go back and watch the webinar number 1. Mass holding come up with the character certificate. So character certificate is needed. Character certificate is needed by the mass holding. So in that circumstances, someone has to have a character certificate, not certified someone itself. The someone is going to the temple, right? Temple, and tell to monk, ලොකු හාමුදුරුවන්ට චරිත සහතිකයක් දෙන්න කියලා කියනවා. ලොකු හාමුදුරුවෝගෙන් චරිත සහතිකයක් අරන් ගිහිල්ලා mass holding එකට දෙනවා. You see, there is a certificate coming here, right? So there is a nice program here. In this process, we learn as a assurance. This process we learn as assurance. I told you this character can be anything in this world. This diagram can be applied for many things in this world. If this is applied for the character, or if this is applied for the, we would say about financial statement can be applied, this building can be applied, air flight can be applied, in this economy can be applied, in this world can be applied, anything this diagram can be applied, that is called assurance. In order to classify this as an assurance, I told you, there should be 5 elements if those 5 elements are there, that can be classified as assurance engagement. I explain you nicely at the first webinar, right? What are those 5 elements? Just to recall your knowledge. 3-party relationship. There should be a 3-party relationship. Right? And appropriate subject matter. Appropriate subject matter. Then suitable criteria. Suitable criteria. Then evidence. And then report. You see, 3-party relationship, appropriate subject matter, suitable criteria, evidence, and then report. So if these five things are complied, it is called an assurance. So this subject matter can be applied for anything. It was a very clear in the first video. Now I told you in this diagram is applied for finance statement. In this diagram is applied for the finance statement, where would say the shareholders, the company and the shareholders are 2 different parties. We'll forget this. I'll tell you from the beginning what's going to happen. So shall we say there is a person called Amal, right? So he is the shareholders, but he doesn't have a time in engaging in the business activities. So what he does, he incorporates a company called ABC Private Limited. He incorporates a company called ABC Private Limited. Amal is a shareholder. Amal has the money. Amal invests a company called ABC Private Limited. So ABC Private Limited has a manager conducting the business activities called Nimal. Right? So ABC Private Limited, there is a director or a manager, so who is conducting the business activities on behalf of the Amal. So Amal is the shareholder. Amal is the shareholder. ABC Private Limited is the company incorporated, and Amal and the company is 2 different entities or 2 different people according to the business entity concept. Vyapara ekaka sankalpe. Vyapara ekaka sankalpeta anuwa Amal saha vyapara yanu parshavayan dediregi. Right? So now what's going to happen? This ABC Private Limited, so Amal has invested, shall we say, money of rupees 10 million. Rupees 10 million has given to the company as equity capital to run the business activities. Right? So at the end of the year, after business activities are conducted by the Nimal with the involvement of other staff, so end of the year, now Amal wants to know what happened to my business. Amal wants to know what happened to my business. Since Amal wants to know what happened to your business, my business, or what happened to my money. I invested a 10 million, what happened to my money? So this what ABC Private Limited Nimal can do, so Nimal can go and meet the Amal and say, look here, you have invested a 10 million money, out of that 10 million, now only 8 million is remaining because 2 million loss. And out of 8 million, 1 million as a cash in hand, 2 million as inventory, 3 million as debtors, 5 million as creditors. Who is going to rely that? Or who is going to listen to that? So Amal says, oh, I am not sure what you are telling. So document properly. What happened to someone's, so what happened to Amal's money has to be communicated with a proper mechanism or a proper language or a proper methodology. That is called financial statements. So what's going to happen here now? The Amal has to be satisfied what happened to 10 million. So that has to be communicated by the ABC Private Limited, especially the management Nimal. That communication you can't go and tell. For that purpose, there is a communication methodology called finance statement using the double entry system. So finance statement is the outcome of double entry system which is adapted throughout the period, right? Hope that you are clear with that. So what happened now, the Amal is not happy about the performance of the ABC company or the finance statement given by the ABC company, manager Nimal, because in this world you cannot trust anybody. So therefore, what Amal will do, Amal will go to the another person called, is a CA, call, summon. You see, ABC Private Limited finance statements are not trusted or are not relied by the Amal. So Amal goes for a third party person call, summon, and telling to Saman, look here Saman, I don't know, I can't believe the finance statement given by the management. I cannot believe. So therefore, can you verify this finance statement? Can you verify this finance statement prepared by the ABC Private Limited management? Saman, look here. Can you check the finance statement? Can you check the finance statement prepared by the management and check and give me a conclusion or a satisfaction or an additional comfort, or a, we call, can you check and give me a report? Can you check and give me a report? Right. You see, again I am going to tell you this summary. The Saman has the money, but Saman doesn't have a time to do the business activities. Therefore, Saman incorporate a company called ABC Private Limited. Saman is the shareholder and the company is a separate business entity, and he appoint another person called manager Nimal or a director Nimal to conduct the business activities. At the end of the year, Amal wants to know, don't get confused, Amal, Nimal, Saman, right? So Amal wants to know what happened to my business or what happened to my 10 million money which I have invested as the stated capital. So in that circumstances, what Nimal does, Nimal prepare the finance statement using the double entry bookkeeping system which was introduced by father of accounting, and you are communicating to the year-end result or throughout the year what is the financial position at the year-end and what is the financial transaction throughout the period, and communicate to the Amal. But Amal, Amal know anybody, you oya hari mama hari කවුරු hari විශ්වාස කරයිද? දැන් හිතන්න ඔයාට අතේ ඔයා හන්දියේ බේකරියක් පටන් ගන්නවා. මේ බේකරිය පටන් ගන්නකොට ඔයාට බිස්නස් කරන්න විදියක් නැහැ. ඔයා චාර්ට් ඉගෙන ගන්න හින්දා ඔයාගේ යාළුවෙට දෙනවා බේකරිය කරයි යන්න. හවසට අවිල්ලා කියනවා අද 500යි 500ක් විකුණා මෙන්න ලාභය කියලා ඔයාට දෙනවා. පළවෙනි දවසේ 100ක ලාභය දෙනවා, දෙවෙනි දවසේ 20ක ලාභ 90ක ලාභය දෙනවා, ඊළඟ 80ක ලාභය දෙනවා. දවසින් දවස වාට මේ මනුස්සයා ඇත්තටම වැඩේ හරියට කරත් පොඩි සැකයක් එන්නේ නැද්ද? පොඩි සැකයක් එන්නේ නැද්ද? පොඩි සැකයක් එනවා. Right? It's going to come. So you cannot avoid that. So the similar concept here, the shareholder who knows that whether these finance statements are correct, whether what he is telling the financial position, comprehensive income is correct, cash flow is correct. We don't know whether wrong accounting policies have adopted, whether profits are overstated, understated, assets are available or not available. We don't know. So therefore, what happens here? Amal goes for a third party person called a chartered accountant, Saman, audit firm, and say that, okay, look here, my management has prepared the finance statement, but I don't realize. So therefore, can you come and check the finance statement and give me an independent report? We call this is an independent report. This is a independent report. Remember that, because Saman is not part of the ABC Private Limited. Saman is not part of the Amal. Both are not there. Right? It's an independent party for all the people. That is called tri-party relationship. And come and check the finance statement. So this Saman, now Saman is coming and checking the finance statement. That verifying that finance statement and giving a report, that is simply called external auditing. Remember that. That is simply we call external auditing. I hope that you are clear. Again I will tell you, someone is going to check the finance statement prepared by the management and going to give a report to the Amal shareholder. That is called external auditing, right? This external auditing can only be done in Sri Lanka as per the Act number. There are so many regulatory background to here. So in financial regulation, one is the Act number 15 of 1995, Accounting and Auditing Standards Act. The same time, the Companies Act number 7 of 2007. The same time, the Inland Revenue Act number 24 of 2017. So all these acts, right, have given the power to members of Sri Lanka to act as auditors of the company, right? So others cannot act as the auditors company, especially the PLC. So the only members of the Sri Lanka can act as the auditors of the company. Only one exception is there. If the company is a private limited, there is another type of people called registered auditors. For the registered auditors can do the audit in Sri Lanka, but to become a registered auditor, so you need to have experience in the into the auditing, and then you have to apply to the Inland Revenue Department. Commissioner General of Inland Revenue has to satisfy with your qualification and experience. Then they will grant you the registered auditor status, where you can engage in the private company auditing, right? Other than that, all other companies' auditing rights are only with the members of the Institute of Chartered Accountant of Sri Lanka. That also not with the Chartered Accountant in business, but the Chartered Accountant in practice, like audit firm to become audit firm partner. There are other requirements given in the Sri Lanka requirements. Another one requirement is you need to have a 2 years training after completing your corporate level examination in an audit firm. That means to become a normal chartered accountant, you need to have only 3 years training, but to become a practicing chartered accountant, you need to have 4 years experience. In addition to that, at the Viva stage, there is to become a chartered accountant in the normal way. So you have the Viva, and thereafter you can become an chartered accountant, ACA membership. But at that stage, there is an additional module come in, practicing module. So that has to be done by attended by the student if you want to become a practicing chartered accountant like audit firm partners, right? So this is what called external auditing. So this external auditing, can you remember I told you in this external auditing what we give? We give basically a reasonable assurance. Can you remember? So we give reasonable assurance. So what is meant by reasonable assurance? The reasonable assurance mean it is a very positive assurance, but not 100%, right? But not 100% assurance. We cannot give a 100% assurance. This is a positive. We are telling it's positive. I told you the last webinar example. If I ask from somebody, how are you? You are not telling I am perfectly all right. 100% I am good. Can anybody say? Can't. But you can say I am good. That is called positive assurance. Somebody can say not bad. It's a negative assurance. Negative assurance, for example, it's a finance statement review that we discussed previous webinar, so I am not going to touch on that. So the reasonable assurance is provided during the external auditing. So that means positively you are telling this is good. Positively you are telling these finance statements are good. Positively you have to say. That doesn't mean finance statements are 100% correct. Therefore remember that even though the finance statements are audited by an independent chartered accountant, that doesn't mean that the finance statements are 100% correct. Can you say? No, never ever. The finance statements are not 100% correct, but you can say like this: finance statements are free from material misstatement. What is that? In this chartered accountant gives an opinion to the shareholders like this. Carefully listen. In our opinion, the finance statements prepared by the chartered account, finance statement prepared by the management are free from material misstatement, free from material misstatement, free from material misstatement. What is that? Free from material misstatement. This has to be understood properly. Material misstatement? What is that? Remember, as I told you, this auditing, there is a separate vocabulary comes in. Basically, you need to have those words. So, you need to remember those words, because auditing, there is a separate language for that. For example, misstatement. So, first of all, you need to aware what is this misstatement. What is this misstatement? What is we call about the misstatement? Remember, we will be discussing later, but misstatement, in the finance statement, there could be two things. One is fraud and error. There could be two things, fraud or error. In auditing, remember, what is the difference between the fraud and error? What is the difference between the fraud and error? This has to have a very solid understanding. Fraud and error, what is that? What is really meant by fraud and what is really meant by error? So, to make you understand of the fraud and error, I will just give you an example for in your language. අපි කියමුකෝ දැන් කෙනෙක් මෙතන මලලසේ ක්‍රමාවතෙන් ගිහිල්ලා අපි කියමුකෝ මෙතන කොළඹ කැම්පස් එක ළඟින් බස් එකකට නගිනවායි කියලා. පළවෙනි දවසේ බස් එකට නැග්ගාම දැන් ඇත්තටම බස් එකේ යනකොට නිදිමතයි. දැන් බස් එක ගත්තාම නිින්ද යනවා බස් එකේ. කන්ඩක්ටර් එනවා මේ සල්ලි ගන්න. එනකොට මේ so since you are sleeping, so conductor didn't want to disturb you, so conductor goes away. Now shall we say you are going to get down from Kottawa. So when you are, so suddenly you get up, you can see already Kottawa pass. Already you have passed and gone Kottawa, so you suddenly get up and you put the bell and you get down from the bus. And you go home and you think, I didn't pay the money to conductor. කොන්දොස්තරට සල්ලි දුන්නේ නැහැ. Now what happened finally? You came your journey without paying the money. 35 or 40 rupees loss for the conductor. Next day you get the point, and next day also you are getting into the bus from, we'll say from from the near the Columbia University, and you get into the bus, shall we say 138 bus route for Homagama. So you getting into the bus. And actually you are not sleepy on that day, so you are not in sleepy mode. So what you feel is, so you are, now you know, one day you have, by chance you have escaped not giving the money, second day, now you are trying to do that. Conductor is coming, when the conductor is coming, you are sleeping. Again conductor goes, and again he comes back, again you are sleeping. So there are no good conductors like that, right, in the country. But I am taking as example. But there may be a good people. So then now when the conductor comes, the conductor thinks, okay, this fellow is poor fellow, that he may be tired now, so therefore he will give me the money when he gets down. So better not to disturb. And then same way you go for Kottawa and you wait till the bus pass the Kottawa junction, and you suddenly put the bell and you get down from the bus. What happened now? That day also conductor lost 35 rupees from you. End of the day result is same. End of the day, first day and the second day, what happened? The conductor lost 35 rupees. 70 rupees lost. So now, you see, the first day was unintentional activity, second day was intentional activity. End of the result is same. Remember therefore, fraud is an intentional activity, error is an unintentional activity, but the result is same. Fraud is an intentional activity, error is an unintentional activity. End of the day, result is same. Therefore, in preparation of financial statement, there is no sympathy. Even if it is a fraud, even if it is an error, both are treated equally in audit of financial statement. So therefore, instead of the two word fraud and error, remember, in auditors are using a one word that is called misstatements. Misstatement. There are no two words, only one word is there, misstatement. It is not fraud and it is not errors. There is no sympathy ground. අපි කම්පැනි එක ඔඩිට් එකට යනකොට අපි හිතනවා මේ කම්පැනි එකට මේ accountant වැරදිලා වෙන account payment එකට වෙන account එකට payment එකක් කරලා. අනේ accountant පව් එහෙම කරන කෙනෙක් නෙවෙයි. එහෙම වෙන්න විදියක් නැහැ. There is no sympathy in auditing. So you need to look at the implication to the finance statement and correct accordingly. So therefore, in the finance statement, errors and the fraud, when you are going to check the finance statement, you can see errors and the fraud both in the financial statement. Those are called misstatement. Now, what we were discussing, what I was telling, this auditor's objective is to state that the finance statement prepared by the management is free from material misstatement. What is the objective? The finance statement prepared by the management is free from material misstatement. So, ඒ කියන්නේ ප්‍රමාණාත්මක වැරදි වලින් තොරයි කියලා මතයක් දෙන එක තමයි විගණකගේ තියෙන අරමුණ. When you are going to say that free from material misstatement, free from, not the free from errors, again I am telling, you see, not the free from misstatement, free from material misstatement, free from material misstatement. What is that material misstatement? This we will be discussing in detail in the next webinar, right? This will be discussing, we will be discussing in detail in next webinar. I'll tell you to understand a very basic example. Hari? Very basic example. Then let's say now you are in now near the bus halt of the Malalasekara Mawatha, we'll say, to go by the 154 bus. And in the bus halt එකේ මෙහෙම යනකොට තියෙනවා 5000 කොලයක් පහට නමිලා පහට විතර මෙයාලා බිම වැටිලා නමලා 5000 කොලයක්. දැන් ගන්නවද නැද්ද? මොකද කියන්නේ? 5000 කොලේ ගන්නවද නැද්ද? මේ දවස්වල ඉතින් 5000ක් කියන්නේ ඉතින් වටිනවනේ ඉතින්. What some people will say will get that 5000. Right? Will say you. So sometime you may get, you may not get, I don't know, but we'll say you are getting that 5000. But to see, same scenario, see, the next day morning, Dhammika Perera is going on this road, morning the exercises, jogging. Dhammika Perera, you know, a businessman. So he sees 5000 rupee note in the road, on the road. Now, are you going to get that 5000? Will he get that 5000? He may be thinking 5000 is, what is that? 5000 is not significant for me. So what is that 5000? I have billions. So I may not even look at that. He may not even look at. So similarly, when you go on the road, so you see there is a pahe kaasiyak වැටලා තියෙනවා. දැන් රුපියල් 10 කාසියක් බිම තියෙනවා. රුපියල් 1 කාසියක් නැත්නම් රුපියල් 2 කාසියක් බිම තියෙනවා. දැන් ඕක ඔයා ගන්නවද? රුපියල් 10ක් කරන් මොනවා කරන්නද දැන්? ඒ නිසා ඒ ඔයා ගන්නෙ නැහැ. But sometime there was something would say about someone who is in the road. තම බෙගර් කෙනෙක් වගේ රුපියල් 10 දකින්නවා. ගන්නවද නැද්ද? ගනීවි. Why I told you this 5010 rupee example, you see, that 5000 is not material to Dhammika Perera, but 5000 is material to you. Right? That 10 rupees is not material to you, but the 10 rupees is material to the beggar. Try to understand this. It's a little bit a high-end concept in auditing. It's a big concept we will discuss later. I just want to give you introduction today only. So therefore, materiality is a highly subjective judgment. You cannot say this is material, that is not material. It will be materialized depending on the circumstances and the person who is looking at this. right? So therefore, for the moment, just remember the materiality is a very big concept that you want to learn, that we will learn, right? But for the moment, remember, for the introduction of auditing chapter, remember the auditor's objective is to state that the finance statement prepared by the management is free from material misstatement. What is our objective to state that? Look at here, the free from material misstatement. So what is our objective? To state that the finance statement free from material misstatement. So misstatement mean what? That you are well aware, that is fraud and errors. So ඒ කියන්නේ අපි කියන්නේ යන්නේ මොකද්ද? මේ කලමනාකරණය විසින් පිළියෙල කරන ලද මූල්‍ය ප්‍රකාශන කට්ටලය තුල ප්‍රමාණාත්මක වැරදි නැහැ කියලා. වැරදි නැහැ කියලා නෙමෙයි, ප්‍රමාණාත්මක වැරදි නැහැ කියලා. So material misstatements are not there. That means no significant errors or no significant frauds. What is significance? How material level is decided? Now for example, we'll say in this finance statement, we'll say profit is 100 million, right? Now generally, if a company, will discuss later those things, the material level for this company will be 10% of the profit. So that means we'll say 10 million. What is the auditor is going to say? Auditor is going to say to the shareholders, this finance statement does not contain the misstatement exceeding 10 million. ඊට පල්ලෙහාව තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ඒවා ගණන් ගන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක අපිට වැඩකුත් නැහැ, shareholder වැඩකුත් නැහැ. අපි කියන්න උත්සාහ කරන්නේ this finance statement prepared by the management is free from material misstatement. The material misstatement mean එක level එකකින් අපි එක level එකක් වෙනකන් විතරයි බලන්නේ. එතනින් පල්ලෙහා දේවල් බලන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ level එකෙන් උඩ වැරදි නැහැ. දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට, right? So we'll say that like about 10 up to 100 තියෙන company එකක 10 එකෙන් පල්ලෙහා අපි මේකට කියනවා material නෑ කියලා. This is not material for you. So above 10 it is material. So what is your conclusion is this finance statement prepared by the management does not have a misstatement more than the 10 million. So that 10 million, the 20 million, the 50 million, the 100 million, the when amount depends on the audit and the auditor's judgment. How that is decided, we will discuss later under the material misstatement chapter, risk assessment chapter. Right? For the moment, what you need to do, remember is the auditor's objective is to state that the finance statement prepared by the management is free from material misstatement. Free from material misstatement, not that free from misstatement. ඒ කියන්නේ වැරදි වලින් නැහැ කියලා කියන්නේ, ප්‍රමාණාත්මක වැරදි වලින් නැහැ, වංචා වලින් නැහැ කියලා කියන්නේ. Right? I hope that you are clear. So you are clear with the misstatement word. You are not 100% clear with the material word. That may be the webinar number 3. You can watch what is, there's a separate auditing standard for that materiality. We will discuss in detail for at that time. Just for the moment, remember the material mean එක මට්ටමකින් එහා දේවල් විතරයි අපි බලන්නේ, right? So I'm sure that you are clear with this now. So I'm sure that you are clear is auditor's objective. So what I won't tell you one more thing. So now what I was explaining, what is really meant by auditing? The auditing mean the management is preparing the finance statement and giving to the shareholders. Shareholders do not trust the management. So therefore shareholder comes and check a third party person called auditor to come and check the finance statement and give an opinion stating that the finance statements are free from material misstatement. This person cannot give just I can't give an report. So I can't give an report just if I am a chartered accountant in practice or audit firm, someone, I can't just give an report. I have to do something and give the report. So that since I have to do something, that something that has to be done is called as external auditing. The මොන හරි දෙයක් කරලා මම report එක දෙන්න ඕනේ, මොකද evidence තියෙන්න බෑ මට මේක හොඳයි හෝ නරකයි කියලා කියන්නේ. ඒ කරන්න ඕන දේට අපි කියනවා external auditing කියලා. In this external auditing, basically we give a reasonable assurance. That means not 100% but not low. It's a reasonable level assurance. Basically that we are going. I hope that I took little longer time to explain this diagram because this is a very basic for the auditing, and also all the in-depth auditing discussion, I will be taking this example for you at always, and I will be explaining you all this concept in auditing only with this diagram. So therefore, please draw this one. If you have not drawn, please draw this in a paper and keep in the place where you study in this your subject. This diagram is very, very important, right? So then what happened here, one more thing we want to know. So now shall we say Saman is a chartered accountant. In Sri Lanka there are so many audit firms. You say Saman is a chartered accountant, then you have a, now in Sri Lanka if you look at the Saman is a chartered accountant, then KPMG is there, EY is there, PwC is there, Creston is there, BDO Partners, Deloitte, Jasing and Company, no, RT Associate. There are a lot of audit firms in Sri Lanka, maybe about more than 600 audit firms. So then now we'll say this person goes to Saman does in one way, this person goes to KPMG does in another way, this person comes to what Creston does in a different way, and this person goes to Deloitte does a separate. You can't remember that. If I am the Saman, if myself or a Saman or Suraj or any other chartered accountant, any firm in this world or in Sri Lanka cannot do what they want. There is a way of doing. That way of doing means everybody has to conduct the auditing according to Sri Lanka auditing standards. Clear? So I can't do the audit the way I want. The KPMG can't do the audit that the KPMG wants. That has to be done according to the Sri Lanka auditing standards, right? Sri Lanka auditing standards only the giving guideline to how to do the audit. Sri Lanka auditing standard starting from 200 to the standard number 810. There are 37 auditing standards which how the audit should be done. It is given in the auditing standard. So there are out of this 200, 810, 37 auditing standard, all 37 you have to learn at the corporate level. But out of 37, all key standards you have to learn at the business level 5. So our next 2 to 3 webinars, we will be focusing on a key auditing standards, how it should be, how you can apply in the practical auditing scenarios. Right? I hope that you are clear. Another one important thing for you to remember, this SLA UAs, if you go to SLA, these SLA UAs are derived from ISA, International Standard on Auditing, issued by the IASB committee, the world. So ISA, International Standard on Auditing. So those are Sri Lankan version is the Sri Lanka auditing standard. Remember, U is simple. When you are writing SLA, Sri Lanka auditing standard, U is simple. Right? So this is what the basic introduction that I want to tell you before giving the standard numbers. So basically this is the assurance and the element, then this is applicable to the finance statement we call auditing. The auditing objective is to state that the finance statement are free from material misstatement. We discussed the misstatement, we discussed the materiality in summary, but the material will be discussed in detail later. Then the external auditing means 100% assurance cannot be provided, it is a reasonable assurance. Then, and how it is to be done is given in the Sri Lanka auditing standard number 200 to 810 37 auditing standard. So it is a summary. Please take a note on this before moving to the next. Then I want to show you how this auditing standards, how many auditing standards are there. You have to have an overall understanding, but all are not applicable for your examination. Then I will be explaining you the auditing process in a one shot, and I will show you the key auditing standard you should remember, and those we will be taking up with the next webinars, right? Right, just we will quickly have a the summary of the entire auditing. I'm just going to draw you the entire auditing process now, and I'll show you what are the important standard, and then thereafter we can move into the one by one discussion, right? So this is something what I explained you, the systematic learning. Systematic learning will help you to have the knowledge in a better way into the auditing. So in the first webinar and the introduction of external auditing, I explained you the very basic and very basic level, in a very slow, for you to have a better understanding. You will understand why I explain like that while looking at this entire process. Right. Look at here. Our basic diagram. So what I am going to draw is auditing process. So keep a note on this process. Actually, you should be able to draw this one along after I draw. So you should draw along, so then you will have better understanding what is this auditing. So basic diagram of our auditing is management is here, shareholders are here, and the auditor is here. Right? What happens? Management is presented to the finance statement to the shareholders, but the shareholders do not trust the management. So therefore, shareholder appoint a third party person called auditor to come and check the finance statement. Now auditor has to come and check the finance statement. That finance statement verification process is called auditing. Right? Clear? So this is basically external auditing. So here the important thing is, again I am telling, the auditor comes and check the finance statement. That process is called as auditing. So in this auditing process, basically auditor cannot provide 100% assurance. That you should remember. So auditor is appointed by the shareholder, comes and check the finance statement, but you cannot check the 100%. So for that we call something reasonable assurance. Right? Auditor comes and check the finance statement, 100% cannot be provided, it's called reasonable assurance. The first step in the auditing, right? First step, so this is an introduction. First step in the auditing, so you know, when you are appointed to do something, you need to have a contract. When you are appointed to do something, you need to have a contract. If you don't have a contract, you can't do anything. So therefore, first step in auditing is, we call agreeing terms. Agreeing terms. So this is our next webinar, we will be discussing, but for the moment remember, so auditor is we call otherwise appointment of auditor. We say appointment of auditor, we'll call like that. So auditor is appointed, that is called auditing. Sorry, auditor is need to come and check the finance statement, it is called auditing, and auditor cannot provide 100%, the reasonable assurance is provided. The first step in auditing is agreeing the terms. Auditor, what is the auditor's responsibility, what is the management responsibility, what is the shareholder responsibility, this has to be understood in writing. So that is called agreeing terms, otherwise we call auditor appointment. Right, this is the important thing, that is a number one step that you should aware, which will be our next webinar. Right. So then, right, that is the first step in auditing. That is the first step in auditing. Right. So you need to have the basic principle. Now you are also going to learn. So basic principle of auditing and all. This is a key task here is the agreeing terms of the auditor. Right. So in this first step in the auditing, you need to aware all these things. Right. All these standard. We call the SLA US. I hope that you can see. All these standard you have to learn here. Standard number 200, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250, 260 and 265, certain standards are not applicable for BL5. So this is the basic introduction to the auditor, basic introduction concept in auditing. So there you have to learn all these standards: 200, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250, 260, 265. Clear? Out of that, these standards are very, very important. So this we will be discussing. One is 210, which is this. We will be our next webinar series. And 240 and 250 is the next important webinar, that is fraud and the compliance with the laws and regulation. So this is the introduction to the auditing part. So this is our basic principles and how these two people are agreeing the terms, and all these things are given, introduction to the auditings are given in, and all these standards to be followed by the auditor. These are issued by the CA Sri Lanka. I hope that you are clear with that, right? All these standards we have to learn. So we will learn during the next webinars. Then we are coming to the next second step of auditing. Second step of auditing. Second step of auditing. So this I would say basic principles. I would say basic principles. Right. So this I would say the second step. This is number 1. This is number 2. I would say audit planning. This is most difficult area for you in your examination. So basically now you know the auditing what it is, and once you get the basic understanding of the key auditing concept, basic principles, basically basic principles of auditing, and there are two important standards you need to aware, 210 and 240, 250 range. So once you know that one, you have the background of auditing now. I'm looking at this one at more practical angle. Then the second, once you agree the terms, these people agree the terms, and as an auditor, if you have the background knowledge, once you agree the terms, and as an auditor, when you have the proper background knowledge in terms of the auditing principle, then most important thing is, what is your role? You have to plan the work. As auditor, you need to plan the work. You can't check 100%. For example, if the accounts department people, accountants, CFO, and there are about 10 account executive people, they have done the work for the last 1 year, 365 days, out of that 280 days they have worked. But at the end of the financial year, your audit firm trainee, 2 trainees like you, and 1 manager goes for the field for 2 weeks and trying to check that 10 people 280 days work. Is it possible? දවස් 280ක් 10 දිනක් කරපු වැඩ කොටසක් මේ එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් නැති ඔයාලා වගේ ඔඩිට් ට්‍රේනර්ස්ලා දෙන්නේ ගිහිල්ලා සතියෙන් චෙක් කරන්න යන්නේ. පුළුවන්ද කරන්න? Can you check 100%? You cannot check 100%. Right? Since you cannot check 100% only, we call in auditing, this is a risk-based auditing. We call this is a risk-based auditing. Risk-based auditing. So those things we will discuss in later in detail. What is meant by risk-based auditing? Since you cannot check the 100% financial statement, what you are going to do? You are going to check most significant area, if not we'll say most risky area. අපි auditor කෙනෙක් විදියට මේ finance statement වල තියෙන ඔක්කොම check කරන්න යන්නේ. දැන් මොකද්ද මේ auditing කියන එක? දැන් සමහර අය පොඩ්ඩක් confuse. මොකද්ද auditing කියලා කියන්නේ? Auditing කියලා කියන්නේ finance statement check කරලා report එකක් දෙන එක. එච්චරයි. මොකද්ද audit කියලා කියන්නේ? company එකේ management එක හදන finance statement check කරලා report එකක් දෙන එක. ඒක තමයි auditing කියලා කියන්නේ. එතකොට auditor is not going to check the 100%. Auditor is not going to check the 100% because auditor cannot check the 100%. ඔයාට 100% check කරන්න බැරි නම් check කරන්න ඕන මොනවද කියලා plan කරන්න ඕනේ. You need to plan the work. Again, I am telling this is big, a little bit difficult. මේවා ලොකු concept මම මේ හරි පොඩි විදියට කියන්නේ මොකද business level එකේදී අර basic understanding එක නැති වුණොත් ඉස්සරහට ටිකක් අමාරු වෙනවා. Auditor cannot check the 100% in the finance statement. Therefore, auditor plan. What should I check? I can't check 100%. මට දැන් මේ දැන් හිතලා යාපනයේ ජෆ්නා district එකේම බිම් බෝම්බ තියෙනවා කියලා කවුරු හරි කියනවා. දැන් ජෆ්නා district එකේම ගිහිල්ලා මේ අර කූරු අරන් ගිහිල්ලා ආමි එකෙන් මේ හැමතැනම මේ ඇන බලන්න පුළුවන්ද district එකේම? පුළුවන්ද එහෙම? එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. එහෙමනම් මොකද්ද කරන්නේ? අපි අවදානම් සහිත ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨ ප්‍රදේශ හඳුනාගෙන ඒ අවදානම් සහිත ප්‍රදේශ චෙක් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තමයි කරන්න ඕනේ. Similarly, the auditor cannot check the 100% finance statement. In that circumstances, auditor has to identify where could be the problem. කොහෙද ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ලෙඩක් හැදිලා වා ගියානම් ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් හම්බෙන්න ලෙඩේ කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ කියලා මම දන්නේ නැත්නම් ડોක්ටර්ට මේ මුළු ඇඟම චෙක් කරනවට වඩා ડોක්ටර් දන්නවා මේ සිම්ප්ටම් මොනවා කොහෙද මේකේ වරදින්න පුළුවන් කියලා. කොහෙද අවුල තියෙන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. That is called planning. Doctor does a planning. Similarly, chartered accountant makes some planning. That is called audit planning. We plan what area should be checked. We plan what area should be checked, right? So that is called audit planning. So in audit planning, basically we have a three-step. Right? Number one, understanding the business. We will discuss those in later. Understanding the business. So you need to understand the business. After you understand the business, you have to do the risk assessment. Those we will discuss later. You have to do the risk assessment, and then you have to decide the audit procedures. What is that? Planning කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? ඉස්සරලාම අපි මේ ව්‍යාපාරයේ තීරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ. මේ ව්‍යාපාරය මොකද්ද? මෙයාලා brand X ගත්තොත් මොනවද මෙයාලා කරන්නේ? මෙයාලගේ සේවකයෝ කවුද? මෙයාලගේ customers ලා කවුද? මෙයාලගේ creditors ලා කවුද? කොහෙටද බඩ විකුණන්නේ? market segment එක මොකද්ද? economy එක කොහොමද මේකට support කරන්නේ? logistics service කොහොමද? මේ හැම එකක්ම අපි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ. So we need to understand the business. As an auditor, if you are going to give an opinion on someone else's character, you need to understand the business. First of all, understand the business. Then, after understanding the business, identify where there could be errors. Identify the areas where there could be errors. That is called risk assessment. And try to do the risk assessment. We will discuss, that is a different chapter. And then, design the audit procedures. Audit procedures කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? දැන් ડોක්ටර් කෙනෙක් ළඟට ගියාම ડોක්ටර් කියනවා වාගේ පොඩ්ඩක් මේ කොහේ හරි මේ heart එකේ problem එකක් තියෙනවා. Heart is risk. Heart is at risk කියලා කියනවා. ඉස්සෙල්ලා වාගෙන ડોක්ටර් තේරුම් ගන්නවා understanding the business. business එක වාගෙන තේරුම් ගන්නවා. ඊට පස්සේ ડોක්ටර් risk assessment එකක් කරනවා body එකේ. Heart is identified as a risk. After identifying heart is at a risk, to identify whether there is a problem or no problem, you have to do some test. You have to undergo detailed testing. Angiogram කියයි මොනවා හරි ලොකු ටෙස්ට් කරන්න වෙනවා. Similarly, auditor also, when auditor after looking at the understanding of the business, if the auditor see there is a risk in the trade debtors, there is a risk in the trade debtors. Example, you identify trade debtors is at risk. You identify trade debtors is risk. In order to get confirmed whether there are misstatement or not in trade debtors, sometimes there could be misstatement or there may not be misstatement. To you how to do certain work, that is called audit procedures. So we call audit procedures or audit response. අපි ඒ කියන්නේ මොකක්ද දන්නවද? audit procedures, audit response කියලා කියන්නේ මොනවා හරි area එකක misstatement තියෙනවද කියලා identify කරගන්න ඕනේ, misstatement නැහැ කියලා confirm කරගන්න මොනවා හරි check කරන්න ඕනේ. අපි verify කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ verify කරන එකට තමයි අපි කියන්නේ audit procedures කියලා. Right? So we have to do some procedures we call audit procedures has to be done. But But in this stage only, you have to decide what procedures should be performed, that we have to decide. So since we have to decide, at the planning level you understand the business and then you assess the risk and you decide what procedures should be done. For example, trade debtors, we have something called calling confirmation, subsequent settlement, we will discuss those things in later. Right? So to address these things, auditor has a different auditing standards. So these are the auditing standards applicable on this section. 300 and 315 and 330, 402 and 4050. Right, look at here, 300 and 315, 330. So you can take the 320 as well. $320, 330, 402 and 4050, right? So out of here, most critical standard for you in your examination will be 315, 320, and so these are the two critical standard in terms of your examination, 330 as well, right? 300, 315, 320, 330, 402. 402 and 405 not directly connecting to the audit planning, but this is a evaluation of something else. But I just draw here, otherwise there will not be a flow. So now what's happening? We started from 200, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250, 260, 265. Then 300, 315, 320, 330, 402 and 450. Right. So out of which I have highlighted for your examination perspective, I am going to tell you the full flow like corporate level, then we can decide what areas we want to discuss. So these two are very significant, here these three are very significant, which will be discussed in the next webinar. I will be taking you through the practical live example, practical auditing example, how this is being done. Now after today's introduction, what I am going to do in the next 2 to 3 webinars, I am going to take you the practical one audit and into all these standards, and then you will have a better understanding rather than just reading the theory, right? Then the next one, sorry, right. So the next one, third step is performing the audit procedures. Performing the audit procedures. Right? Performing the audit procedures. So basically you look at the basic principles and then audit planning and then performing the audit procedures. In performing the audit procedures, that you can see, so you understand, you agree in the terms, and then you come here, understand the business, risk assessment, decide the audit procedures. After you decide, now you have to do. That is called audit procedures, right? So while you are performing the audit procedures in a practical life scenario, so you have to perform the audit procedures for all the items in the financial statement. For example, I'll draw you, if you look starting from property, plant and equipment, and then intangible asset, debtors, right? Cash and bank, inventory, stated capital, equity, creditors. Now, these are statement of financial position. There are many. And the income statement, if you see, in the income statement you can see income, right, expenses, right, and the disclosure side you can see, right, subsequent event, going concern, right. So likewise there are many. So performing audit procedures mean, understand, performing audit procedures mean what මොකක්ද අපි audit procedures කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ, මේ finance statement check කරගෙන audit කරනවා කියන්නේ. මේ finance statement check කරනවා නම් කියන්නේ finance statement check කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? finance statement එක ඇතුලේ තියෙන ඔක්කොම check කරනවා. If you are checking the finance statement mean, so you are checking the item that are included in the finance statement. So item that are included in the finance statement. Then as an auditing student, we need to aware what are the procedures that can be performed for each line item. That's it. That you have to learn. But not in very in-depth way like a corporate level, but business level, certain things you have to understand. I am going to give you the full outline, then easy for you, right? Then if you look at the relevant applicable standards, these are the applicable standards, right? 500, 501, 505, 510, 520, 530, 540, 550, 560, 570, 580, 600, 610, 620. So all these standards are applicable for this particular segment, but in this segment there are key standards which I want to highlight to you. One is, this is applicable, these two are important for you, and then 540, 50, 60, 70. So these standards are important for you, right? So these are in terms of your examination, these are important. So I will be taking up you for the discussion. So now we have completed the 3 steps. One is basic principles, then audit planning standard, then we came to the performing audit procedures. So I am going on a bit on a more practical way, right? Then the last one is audit reporting. Audit reporting. So what's going to happen here? Once as an auditor, once you have the basic understanding, you plan your audit and then you perform the audit procedures. You have the basic understanding and agreement, you plan the work, you perform the audit procedures. After performing the audit procedures, now you know whether there are material misstatement or not. What is our end of the day objective is, after performing the audit, you have to report to the shareholder. You have to report to the shareholder. That is the last step in auditing principles, that is reporting. Basically, these are the standards applicable for you. 700, 701, 705, 706, 710, 720, right? And then 800, 805 and 810, right? Out of this, these standards are these 3 are not applicable for you all, right? These 3 are not applicable, but these standards are very important, especially 700 and 7056. All these are very important in terms of your examination is perspective, right? I hope that you are very clear of the diagram which we are going to discuss on during the next few webinars. So this is the entire auditing flow. This is the entire auditing flow, nothing else, right? Basically, first step is basic principle that you need to aware as a practical auditor or a theoretical auditor. Then you have to plan the work, what you are going to do. Then you do the work, how to do the work, and end of the day, you report what you found. That's it. You come and check the finance statement, before that understand the business, plan the work, then do the work, and finally report to the shareholder. That is the overall objective of the auditing. So if you count number, so there are 37 auditing standards in this flow. 37 auditing standards should be there. You count and see, right? In this entire 37 standards are not applicable in your the BL5 subject, but all these key standards are applicable for you. All these key standards are very much applicable for you. So I will take you through in a little bit on a practical way, little bit more in a practical way from the next webinar. So then you will have a better understanding as to what extent you want to study. And always I believe, so try to understand, not by just listening to this webinar or just listening to this, just reading the study text. Please think beyond the boxes, beyond the boundaries. Why this? Always when I am explaining you the logic. Try to get with the logic. Whatever the questions that are coming in the examination, you can answer. Easily you can answer. Right? So hope that you are clear with this auditing diagram which we are going to discuss during the next few webinars. This is the introduction to the external auditing, that I want to tell 3 things. In terms of, in addition to this basic introduction, the auditing standard, when we are conducting auditing, there are 3 principles. There are 3 governing principles that you should remember. 3 governing principles. What are those? So if you look at this presentation, so you can see here, general principle of governing an audit of finance statement. First one, professional skepticism. It's a new word for you all. Professional skepticism. Second one, professional judgment. Third one is ethical requirements. The number one, professional skepticism. What is that? Skepticism means always when you are conducting the audit of finance statement, you have to be in a questionable mind. So sometimes those days when I used to go for the audit, those days when I was audit associate, I always in the companies I would love to talk to, not to the finance director, not to the CEO, not to the company's management. I would like to talk to the security officer of the company. Or I would like to talk to the person who is preparing the tea at that office. Why? They know all the things of the companies. So now professional skepticism means during the auditor has to have a always questionable mind. When you see the managing director's signature, you have to have a doubt whether it is a managing director's signature or someone else has put the signature. That questionable mind. The questionable mind means not suspecting everything. So not suspecting everything, but you need to have to accept something, there should be a reason. So professional skepticism is another terminology that you should remember for your examination perspective. Second one is a professional judgment. So when you are conducting the audit of finance statement, so you have to apply a lot of judgment. So very best example, if somebody asks me, this AC machine, how many years can be used this AC machine? I would say this AC machine can be used for 5 years. Now Suraj is here, Suraj can say, no sir, this AC machine can be used for 10 years. Suraj is also accountant, I am also accountant. මම කියන අවුරුදු 5යි සුරාජ් කියන අවුරුදු 10යි. අපි දෙන්නගේ වෙනස කොහොමද accounts වලට එන්නේ? මම අවුරුදු 5යි කියලා decide කරොත් මම depreciate කරන්නේ මගේ depreciation rate එක 20%. සුරාජ් කිව්වොත් අවුරුදු 10යි කියලා මගේ depreciation rate එක 10%. එතකොට බලන්න depreciation එක almost double වෙනවා මගේ judgment එකත් එක්ක. So therefore in this preparation of finance statement mostly judgments are involved. So therefore auditor has to be vigilant on the judgment that are being made in the finance statement, and not only that, auditor has to make some judgment. For example, let's say there are 1,000 debtors, you can't check the 1,000, then you have to check some. අපි 100ක් check කරනවද 10ක් check කරනවද 50ක් check කරනවද 20ක් check කරනවද කියන එක judgment එකක්. Third one is ethical requirement. Basically this has to be remembered. So whenever now auditor is a chartered accountant, so he has to comply with the ethical guideline issued by the Code of Ethics of CA Sri Lanka, which will be discussed separately. That's a separate chapter. So but just for the moment, keep understanding there are 3 principles that governing an audit of finance statement: professional skepticism, professional judgment, and ethical requirements. Right. So that's all I just want to give you on the basic introduction to the external auditing before moving to the complex theories in the next webinar. But just have a look in 1 or 2 question. So this question, please look at the pilot paper question number 23. Which of the following is the most appropriate definition of the external audit? Which I hope that you can easily answer this one. Which of the following is a most appropriate definition of an external auditing? The external audit provides a negative assurance on the truth and fairness of a company's finance statement. Of course, you know that is not a negative assurance. The external audit is an exclusive exercise carried out in order to give an opinion on the effectiveness of a company's internal control system. Of course, you know it is not in the internal control system. Third one, the external audit is performed to identify areas of deficiency within a company and to make recommendation to mitigate those deficiencies. Of course, you know it is not to identify the deficiencies within the company or recommendation. That is not the purpose. Part D, the external audit is an exercise carried out by auditors in order to give an opinion on whether finance statement company true and fair view. Answer D, because its objective is to state that the finance statements are free from material misstatement. So we will be discussing in detail in the next webinar. But the true and fair view and the free from material misstatement both are same. I will show you the audit report. I will show you the practical audit report where you can see the practical audit report at the audit reporting chapter. But I recommend you, so you can go to the csc.lk, www.csccolumbusstockexchange.lk, and download an annual report of a company, and in the middle part of the annual report you can see an audit report. Just download and see. Before we come to the audit reporting section, there you can see true and fair කියලා කිව්වත් free from material misstatement කියලා කිව්වත් දෙකම එකයි. So therefore this answer for this question is part D. The external audit is an exercise carried out by auditors in order to give an opinion on whether the finance statement of a company provide true and fair view. This is a pilot paper question number 23. Then pilot paper question number 29 is a very simple question. You now just see. නිකන් බලන්න මේ explanation එක හරියට අහගෙන හිටියා නම් මේ question දෙකම nothing. question දෙකක් කියලා කියන්නේ ලකුණු 4ක් exam එකේදී. Which of the following is the level of assurance provided by the auditor in an external audit engagement? Moderate assurance, high but not absolute, absolute, negative. Of course, answer is a very straightforward answer B, high but not absolute. External auditing, basically we provide not the moderate assurance, not the absolute assurance, not the negative assurance, but high assurance but not absolute, equally called as reasonable assurance, right? So you can see now, if you listen to this webinar and if you read the study text carefully, so you will have a better understanding and you can write any of the questions that are coming in the examination, right? Right. Before going into that, I just take 1 or 2 minutes in terms of the study text, right? We'll quickly look at the study text as well, so then easy for you to. So in this study text, I am in volume 2, right? So webinar number 1 and webinar number 2 was focusing on this chapter. Right. So what I request you, after watching the webinar number 1 and 2, please go through the study text, Introduction to Assurance Engagement, this chapter number 10, have a look on that. So there are no difficult areas other than what I explained. All the things what is here I have explained now. Definition of assurance engagement, objective of an assurance engagement, elements of an assurance engagement, type of assurance engagement, review engagement, internal audit, value for money audit, internal auditors and financial audit, assurance and report auditing standard, right? So this I have explained you now, and we have put the foundation for the basic auditing as well as the assurance. So read this chapter carefully and keep a proper understand, and also the same time, if you can draw this auditing standard summary which I draw you now, please take a paper and draw and keep the place where you are studying. And also after doing that, so come to the revision kit. Please take the revision kit and don't look at the answers of the revision kit. So if you look at in the revision kit, for each chapter there are separate questions are given. You can see here, you see each chapter, part A, part B, part C, part D, each chapter there are questions. Please select the question, part D, ethics and values, introduction to assurance engagement. Please look at the 45, page number 45, and do all the questions and keep it your answers. I will be taking with the revision session where the possible question to be discussed, right? And also remember, without doing the questions, hopefully, so you cannot understand the question. So without doing the questions, so you cannot get the theory understanding properly and identify the correct answers, right? So with that, I'm going to conclude the session number 2. Let's meet for the third session with the risk assessment and the complex audit planning. And so if you have any questions with regard to the webinar number 2 which we discussed today regarding the introduction to external auditing, so you can raise those questions. So you can send me an email or you can send me a WhatsApp message, but for if you have very unclear area, right? Let's meet in the webinar number 3 with the audit planning. Thank you.